Dan Davidson is on the show today. Dan has lots of really great things planned here over the next few months. So let's start by chatting with what's going on. Dan, a really cool video out right now. I can't even describe the nostalgia that I felt when I watched it because I was a huge Much Music fan, grew up in the 80s. Tell me about the video that's out right now for He Met a Girl.
Yeah, so like that was the whole thing with this record that I'm working on is all the songs are kind of inspired by uh just those classic songs and that classic vibe that those big 80s records that we all loved had. So I thought that when I was making the video for this, we would just double down on that, and we went and borrowed an old terrible 90s camcorder from a friend, and it just looks awful in the right way. And so we shot a lot of it just behind where my computer is right now in my studio here. And it was so easy, this video. Sometimes videos are so hard, but this one was my part of it was all very performance based, and it all had to do with the gear because everything had to be vintage to get that look properly. And then we found a really cool young couple that had some film experience. They're going to be in San Diego, and we were just kind of told them the storyline we were going for, and we got them to self shoot it actually on their cell phones. And so we got them to send us the footage, and we worked it in and gave it a treatment that made it look like it was getting played through a VCR, and we kind of told the story of the song that way.
It's really incredible when you think about it, especially the fact that you got them to shoot that because that video, I mean, it's great quality. It looks like an 80s video, but we're not looking at shaky styles or anything. So it was really great, I guess, that happened to work out in your favor and you found those two.
Yeah, and it's so funny to watch it on the internet because all our screens are the 1080 by 1920 size screen, but back in the 90s and the 80s, everything was square. So when you look at the video online, there's these big black bars on the side, so it really takes you back to that frame of mind.
Now, the album coming out October 26th, 1980 something, obviously sticking with the theme here. Tell me a little bit about the album and why is the 80s something that you really wanted to hit on at this time?
Well, in country, it's funny because we're all making demos all the time for all these demos for all these songs that we write, and after a while, if you're doing a lot of them, they all kind of start to sound the same. So I was really just trying to mix it up and bring in some interesting flavors of classic hits that I love from my childhood. And I remember hearing songs by Bryan Adams and Corey Hart and U2 and things like that on the radio. And I wanted to figure out what made me connect to those songs and take some of those sounds and sprinkle them in to this country music world a little bit. So, there's there's everything from a saxophone solo that somehow we made country into, and there's some 80s synths that are in there to make things brighter and feel wider, and just these little nuggets. Like, it's not a full pin guitar solo or anything like that, but there are just these little spices that we put in to hopefully reflect on some of that nostalgia of those great songs, like Bryan Adams songs of the late 80s, early 90s.
With the writing process this time for this album, Dan, did you go with the usual suspects or did you bring in some different people to help you out?
Some of the usual suspects. I'm starting to find that there's something to having a squad, having a group of people that you don't have to have an awkward conversation with for an hour before you start a write. You already know each other. So yeah, Clayton Bellamy's got a couple cuts on the record, and Tim Hicks and Jason Blaine. Um, a couple friends in Nashville, a guy named Michael August, and a Canadian writer named Emily, who's really great. So yeah, there's a few the usual suspects on there, and I think that allowed me to kind of be comfortable and brave enough to try some of these things.
Well, you have a tour supporting this album coming up as well. So I see we've got a few dates going even through, close to this area. Tell me a little bit about what's planned for the tour. You've got a guest opener as well.
Yeah, so this is my first headlining tour I've ever done, and I think that's a scary thing for a lot of artists in my lane. There's a lot of insecurity about how many tickets you can sell and how expensive it is to tour. But I'm at a point in my career now where I'm pretty comfortable with where my fan base is, and how much I can connect to them, that I'm going to go out on my own and give it a shot. And I'm bringing out a great young band from Quebec, Five Roses they're called, and they're going to be supporting me on the tour. And we're going to be playing in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, and Grand Prairie.
So what is next? Yeah, I know you got the tour coming up and we're getting close to the end of the year here, Dan. Do you just ride this out for a little bit or do you start working on new music immediately in the middle of all this as well?
Yeah, I'm starting to work on new music now. I find that there's a pace to life that's happening these days, and it's nice. It's so nice to be ready and to not be chasing things when you get down to it. Because I think that when you have pressure on yourself as an artist to write a great song, you never write a great song. It has to just kind of chip away. It has to be part of your zeitgeist and your day. It's like working out. It has to just kind of be part of the daily routine in order to be something that you're comfortable with. So working on new music all the time, but I have a documentary coming out actually October the 16th. Um, at least that's when we're doing the viewing party. So there's a lot on the go right now.
Well, one thing about you, Dan, is I think we never know what to expect with your videos, with your music. There's always something new and added in there, which is fantastic. It just leaves the fans wanting more. So hopefully we can catch you in some of the dates that are close here. And I really appreciate you speaking with me today. And I can't see what you have planned next.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I can't wait to chat more and give you more updates about this crazy ride.